Our problem is the low hanging fruit dudes that try to sell everybody short-term bullshit.
It's time to sit down, keep it real, and cut the bullshit. Welcome to Table Talk.
I think most of us would agree that getting a coach is a great step forward that an athlete can make to make greater progress. What if you had a whole bunch of coaches and a whole bunch of driven elite level athletes and like-minded people all in your corner trying to make you better? That's exactly what you're going to get with the Table Talk Discord crew.
Would I join again? Absolutely. And I will continue to be a member of the Discord group as long as it's active. I've been a big fan of Table Talk over the last couple of years. It's one of my top podcasts that I listen to. So once Dave Tate announced that there would be a Discord crew, it was a no-brainer for me to join. It's been overwhelmingly positive experience. One of the biggest benefits of being in the Discord crew, form checks. I work out in my garage by myself. I don't have people to cue me, to correct me, to coach me, anything like that. So being able to hop on the Discord, post my videos, and having elite top-level powerlifters and coaches able to give me real-time feedback that, hey man, you need to tweak this, you need to work on this, do some more accessories here, has been a huge, huge benefit. I've seen my progression as a lifter make jumps just because of that. There's so much info on the Discord group for the members, thousands of articles, tons of ebooks, and really the best thing about it, it's like you're back in the gym, you're busting other people's balls sometimes. At the same time, you're getting really good information. It's been a blessing for me this last year, and I really recommend it.
Like, you know, when I first squatted my first 700, I was almost 21. I was still 20. And Ed Cohen was at the meet and saw it. And he's like, man, if you could stay healthy for like another 4 or 5 years, you'll squat 800. And I was like, fucking 4 or 5 years? I'm thinking, man, I ended up doing it in like 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
But point being was, he was seeing if I was willing to be a long-term development. And that's what I think is really missing now. You asked that question yesterday, and I posted exactly how I felt. Is that nobody wants the time or the energy to actually educate themselves along the way. Because here's the real question is, when you're physically done with hitting huge numbers, which is going to happen to everyone, what do you have to offer? Do you just have what you've went through, what you offer, or do you have an education that built that up to where you can make this a priority for other people to learn from? And this is what we miss, is like, if you look at the generation before us, the only guy that was really talking high education was Fred Hatfield. And then what happened? He got old, people quit listening to him, and all of his shit disappeared. And then somebody reads it 20 years later, and it's a new fucking idea again. It's like I had Paul Quinn showing me books from France and like Italy from like the 1930s that had exercises that are brand new right now. They were invented 100 years ago, but they became distant because, unlike other fields, we don't keep building on each other. We forget the past and then we reinvent it in the future. And it's just like, I mean, you and I have been to the Arnold for 30 years. The same goddamn supplements disappear for 3-4 years, come back out, and they're all new rage. You know what I mean? First whey is the best thing ever invented, then it sucks, and then now it's beef protein, and then it's this. And why don't you just fucking eat right and train hard and shut the fuck up, right? I mean, I'm just saying, like, you see creatines, like, you know, that was the new shit in 1990. But the guys before that, like Arnold, were eating red meat all the time. We're getting creatine anyway. So it's like, I don't know. I think it's a longevity problem. I think it's a problem of they train too specific too fast, and they don't realize that they're creating all kinds of wear and tear. I mean, most guys, like, I'll give you an example, like Larry Wheels. How in the fuck is he retired from powerlifting at 27? That's when I was hitting my first records, because he blew his wad training too hard, too fast. And now he's plagued with injuries. We can name how many people like that today. But back in our day, we didn't see too many guys that just popped up and were disappeared. They stayed in the game for a long time. Steve Goggins, how long was he good?
Decades, probably 3-4 decades.
Yep. How long was Eddie Cohen good?
Yeah, decades.
How long was Larry Pacifico good? Won 10 world titles back to back, never beaten. I mean, you start thinking about that and you're like, what do they know that these new guys don't know? The numbers really aren't that much different. I mean, they might be a little bit better, but they're not crazy better.
Yeah. The more I've thought about this, it because I continue to think about it because it's an attention economy. I get that. There's the marketing, like buy my shit because you're going to get stronger faster and all the stuff. But I've concluded that it's the messenger or the group of messengers, right? And what the overall overreaching message is, where I think, I hate to say back in the day, the overreaching message was all this shit takes time, where the kids know this because they graduate from high school. Like they go from junior high to high school and they already know this is going to take 3 years or 4 years, however their school system's developed. And then each teacher is a different level. So they know this is 4 years, right? Actually 12, right? Total for me to graduate. Or if you go into college, it's 4 years, maybe 5, in my case, 7 for a bachelor. Yeah. But here's the starting point, here's the end point, and it's a duration of time. And then everybody that's involved in that system knows this is the duration of time. Like there's some outliers that may graduate high school in 2 years because they test out, but fucking outliers, right?
Sure.
So that whole group of messengers in all those areas that kids already know, it's not like I can't blame it on them because they already know this because they've been raised through that, elementary school, 7 years or 6 years, whatever it's going to be. So they know that. But they're surrounded by all the people that are reinforcing that just because that's how the system is created, right or wrong. It's how the system's created. Go in the military 4 year, all these things are there. Now you go into powerlifting, that overreaching message has now become, here's my 12-week program, put this on, where more messengers that are saying what we're saying, like, look at this as a quadrennial, and then go from one to the other. And the other thing I think that kind of helped lay that a little bit, at least when I was coming up, is the classification system, class 4, class 3, class 2, so it's like, fuck, I can't, in qualifying for the nationals, like, fuck, I totaled 1,200 pounds, 1,600 pounds, I need 1,890.
Yeah.
Like, fuck, I can't do that in a year. I mean, any logical person is going to realize I'm not going to go here to there, but that's where I want to be, where the carrots changed, I guess.
Yeah.
Instead of that carrot being qualifying here, qualifying there, whatever it's going to be, it's changed into here's the fastest way.
Right.
Where economy, which is good, because we all talk about training economy, like you don't want to overreach and do stupid shit. Somehow that got transferred into faster.
Yeah. And it's funny because I think that a lot of that's our economy. A lot of that's our, and I hate it because, powerlifting and bodybuilding and all that kind of share the same group.
Yeah.
And it sucks because if you want to be super strong, it's like, name a pro bodybuilder that won an Olympia under the age of 26. Not very many.
Yeah.
Right. Dorian wasn't in his prime till his 30s. Ronnie wasn't in his prime, I want to say, until he was like 34, because his last Olympia was like he was 40. How long did it take them with those superior genetics and amazing amounts of drugs to reach an Olympia level strength? Our problem is the low hanging fruit dudes that try to sell everybody short-term bullshit. If we could cut them out, and I do this with 3 things. We've talked about this before. What's someone's education? If somebody, and it's not always true because we know some jackasses with some PhDs, but the guys that are jackasses with PhDs also are weaker than fuck. So if we look at a guy, does he have a high degree? Is he strong? And how long was he able to sustain that strength? If it's more than 10 years, I kind of want to listen to what he has to say. But if he's a guy that might have a PhD, but he's weaker than shit and spreading a bunch of bullshit, he's missing 1 or 2 of the 3 pillars. If I have a guy that's a world champion powerlifter, but he was only good for 1 year, I don't care what he has to say. Not that it may not have value. I just don't look at it as close, especially if he didn't go to school. I find that those 3 pillars, if you put those 3 pillars into play, it starts to really narrow down the people that you want to listen to. Let's look at somebody like Stan Efferding, for example. Multimillionaire, has a pretty high degree, and was really good at what he did for 2-3 decades, and still looks amazing at mid-50s. Why wouldn't you want to listen to him, right? You look at guys like O'Hearn, and I know he gets a lot of flack on social media, but that fucking guy has looked like a pro bodybuilder for 40 years. He weighed 250 when he was 17. like, and he maintained his physique for that long. That's not drugs. I'm not saying, I don't know if he took anything or not.
No, I get you what you're saying.
You don't sustain that level of proficiency on just anabolics alone, period, in the story. So the problem is like, look at somebody's full body of work. If they have high education, they've been super strong for a long time, they probably have something to hold on to. Everybody else would be highly looked at as, what the fuck are you trying to sell? And why is this bullshit better? And how can you fix anything in this short period of time?
Yeah. Well, I think the other part of that is when you find the people that you're speaking about, you will find differences of opinion, which is a good thing.
Sure.
But where people put all the focus is in that difference of opinion and not the 90-some% that they're all going to agree upon, which is, that comes back onto the person that's aspiring to learn.
Sure.
And when I was coming up, I would look through, say if it was HIIT training, I wanted to go to like Ken Leistner, I wanted to go to the people that was them. That's all they did. They didn't know anything else. They didn't want to know anything else because to them, that was the Holy Grail.
That's their life.
Yeah. Louis, the Holy Grail, like conjugate. You're not going to sell him on anything outside of that.
No.
But when you know what that person's bias is and you want to learn from them, then you can either get sucked into the cult, right? Which you don't want to do that, but you can get close enough to them to be able to learn what's working here that also works here. And it works here, then it works here. And then under the surface, you're kind of developing your own philosophy over a period of time, which is going to be a conglomerate of all of those things.
Yeah. Past experiences.
Instead of just being a cult follower.
Yeah.
Which we see that happen too. But I don't want to learn from the cult follower. I want to learn from the guy that started the cult.
Right.
Right. Because it's already distilled at that point.
Yeah.
But you also need to know what their bias is.
Yeah. You need the firsthand information, not the secondhand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Absolutely. And that's why it was so important, I think, even in our generation, where guys would go and do internships and they would go learn from somebody else for 10 or 15, 20 weeks, or maybe even a year before that they started to collect their own thought processes on what they feel was advantages and disadvantages based on what they saw.
Mm-hmm.
So how I think about things is a mixture of being around you and Louis and guys like Verkhoshansky and Zatsiorski and Kramer and all those guys. It's just kind of a melting pot. And certain beliefs I have fit in really good with Kramer and some of them don't. Some of them fit in really good with Louis and some of them really don't. So, but then you find like, well, yeah, this is a good scenario for this particular model, but it may not work for everything. And, everybody's going to have a little bit of bias based on who they learn from, but who they learn from is a big deal.
It's a big deal. And to